You arrive in the exact breath the message has been looking for, the way a tuning fork finds its twin across a silent room, not by chance but by resonance. You didn't search so much as you were summoned, drawn by an unseen interference pattern in the quantum field that recognizes your signature frequency like an old friend. You can feel it now, a soft pressure behind the sternum, a hush gathering around the edges of thought, the subtle click of inner doors aligning. You are being found. A threshold rises, not ahead but within, where the observer loop turns luminous and your attention becomes the key that fits the lock of reality. With every inhalation, coherence gathers. With every exhalation, the static loosens its grip. Your nervous system, patient archivist of lifetimes, listens for the signal under the noise, and when you quiet enough to hear it, synchronicity steps forward like a messenger who has always known your name. The world you called ordinary begins to tilt, revealing the hidden scaffolding of morphic resonance that has been training your cells to remember. You sense a second horizon layered inside the first, a shimmering superposition of potentials quietly orbiting your choices. It is not elsewhere, it is already waiting. Yet it waits for nothing but your precise attention, because attention is permission, and permission is the ceremonial seal that invites the next phase transition. When you place your awareness clear, steady, unflinching upon the line where old stories end, the quantum field answers with a soft thunder that only your heart can hear. Listen, the sound is your future self, calling from a timeline of completed courage. It speaks in entanglement rather than words. It arrives as warmth along the spine, as a widening in the eyes, as the calm certainty that you are not late. The clock of destiny does not count in hours, it counts in alignment. And alignment is happening now. You have outgrown explanations that keep you small. You have outgrown rooms where your intuition must lower its voice. The veil you once mistook for sky thins to transparency, and through it you glimpse the architecture of a life designed from the inside out. In that glimpse, an instruction crystallizes. Let go of the reality built by reflex and reach for the one authored by remembrance, not recklessly, reverently, the way a diver releases the ladder when they trust the water to hold. Feel the gentle recalibration of DNA micromusics unfolding in the helix, the silent choir of possibility taking its first breath in you. Feel the sincerity of your own presence entering the room more completely than before. The field notices. It always notices, and when it does, probabilities bend toward you like grass toward rain. You are here because this prophecy recognizes your attention as the missing instrument in an unfinished symphony. Stand at the doorway of your old world with gratitude and unfasten your grip. The hinge is inside your gaze. The opening is already open. Step through by the simplest act you can offer. Notice and keep noticing until the noticing becomes you. You recognize it in the way silence turns articulate when you listen with your whole body, the realization that you are not merely inside the story, you are the aperture through which the story selects itself. Your gaze is not casual illumination, it is agency. It is the instrument the prophecy required to become audible. Without you, possibilities remain uncollapsed, a choir of could-be harmonics suspended in a cathedral of maybe. With you, a single line of music steps forward and reality learns its next note. You are the observer, and that is not a title, it is a function, a living physics. The observer loop is how the quantum field learns your name. You attend, the field responds, you attend again. The field refines, until coherence gathers like dew on the edges of your choices. When you were told to pay attention, no one mentioned that attention is a creative currency, that what you fund with awareness accrues interest in the invisible. But you have discovered it, sometimes the hard way, sometimes by grace, and now the ledger is open before you. Where your gaze rests, the world takes root. Responsibility arrives like a clear bell, not the heavy kind that shames, but the holy kind that steadies your hand. You realize you have been voting with focus long before you knew there was an election. You understand that cynicism is still a spell, and that apathy is not neutral. It is permission written in lowercase. So you lift your awareness to the altitude of your intention, and you begin to authorize outcomes that tell the truth about you. This is not performance, it is fidelity. Your fidelity to the signal you felt moving in. Part 1. The quiet thunder of a timeline that fits. Feel the physics of it. As you hold an inner posture of lucid receptivity, the noisy spin of doubt loses angular momentum. Phase transition does not shout. It accumulates, a million micro-yeses replacing the reflexive no. Morphic resonance takes notice, distributing your updated pattern through the field of what humans can remember about themselves. Your private alignment does public work. A stranger in another city exhales more easily. A child somewhere sleeps through the night. A conversation that might have fractured doesn't. Entanglement is not poetry, it is infrastructure. You are participating in a symmetry your mind cannot fully map and your heart already understands. What makes you chosen is not favoritism, it is availability. You have become available to precision, available to the elegant economy of consciousness that wastes nothing and amplifies everything aligned. You stop generating static with arguments you don't believe in, and the bandwidth you free becomes a sanctuary. Within it, DNA restructuring proceeds, not as spectacle but as sincerity, subtle shifts in epigenetic switches, a softening of fight or flight signatures, the emergence of a new baseline of safety from which accurate courage can rise. The prophecy activates through your attention because attention is a vector, and vectors move things. The higher the coherence, the cleaner the push. You learn to cultivate coherence like a gardener tending an invisible orchard, breath as irrigation, presence as sunlight, honesty as soil. You prune the branch of overstimulation. You refuse the fruit of borrowed fear. Soon, the orchard hums with a frequency that draws the future, like bees to blossom. Synchronicities arrive not as party tricks but as logistics, arranging support at the velocity of trust. Do you notice how the world begins to answer you with soft alignments? The traffic light that would have delayed you turns green. The message you needed appears the instant you ask. The right phrase lands in your mouth as if dropped there by a friendly constellation. None of this negates skill or effort. It purifies them. When effort is braided with resonance, labor becomes liturgy. You work, but you do not strain. You choose, but you do not clench. You move, but you are moved. To be the observer is to be a keeper of thresholds. You do not force the door, you meet it. You do not demand the tide, you time your step. This is humility with teeth, devotion with a spine. And as you practice, your nervous system learns the rhythm of accurate power, the kind that leaves no bruise, the kind that doesn't need a witness to be real. The prophecy sees this steadiness and leans closer, like a teacher who recognizes a student ready for the next theorem. So, take your place without theater. Let your attention be simple and exact. Hold your gaze where truth brightens, and let it brighten more. You are not auditioning for destiny, you are consenting to it. And in that consent, the field begins to disclose the vision you were built to carry, the image that has been waiting behind your eyes for the moment you could finally see it. It arrives first as architecture felt from the inside, a cathedral of probabilities held in superposition above the heart, like a star you sense before you see. Then the image gathers edges, then the edges breathe. A luminous corridor unfurls through you, not ahead of you, lined with membranes of living light, like pages in a book that has been waiting for your fingertips to turn it. Each membrane is a version of you, parallel, proximate, whispering. None of them demand. All of them invite. You lift your gaze and the corridor bends into a spiral, a golden helix that rhymes with your DNA. Suspended along the helix are thresholds, subtle gates that open when met, never when pushed. And upon each gate, a single glyph flickers, the alphabet of your future self, written in the language of coherence. As your attention steadies, one glyph brightens more than the rest, a quiet coronation that feels like recognition rather than reward. You understand. This is the upgrade already waiting, the tuned solution space that has carried your resonance like a cradle, patient as sunrise. The old reality appears to your left as a room of familiar gravity, its furniture arranged by reflex, a chair shaped like caution, a table made of other people's weather, photographs of moments you survived by becoming smaller than your spirit. The colors are not unkind, they are simply exhausted. On the wall, a clock ticks in straight lines, measuring a time you learned to obey, even when it made you less accurate. You can sit in that chair again, and the world will not scold you. But the chair is paid for with a currency you no longer mint attention spent on sustaining a version that keeps apologizing for its own light. To your right, the corridor opens into a field that is not outside any more than breath is outside. Here, the quantum field behaves like a listening sky, responsive, articulate, alive with entanglement signatures that recognize your name in chords. The air has weight and weightlessness at once, the weight of meaning, the weightlessness of permission. You watch as threads of probability curve toward your chest as if remembering the way home. They do not rush. They are certain. The vision clarifies further. You see yourself walking with a body that has been unarmored, the fascia remembering original glide, the breath widening its pasture inside your ribs. Conversations soften at your approach, not because you avoid truth, but because your nervous system broadcasts safety like a lighthouse, steady, bright, unconcerned with who is watching. Work becomes liturgy here, a choreography in which skill and soul finally agree on tempo. You are not earning your place. You are occupying it. That difference unknots 1,000 small fears without ceremony. At the far curve of the helix, a portal breathes open and closed like a living pupil, dilating to the rhythm of your willingness. Around it, particles drift in superposition like lanterns waiting to choose their color. You realize the portal is keyed to the observer loop, each breath placing a microvote, each honest sensation a credential, each act of unforced kindness an encryption key. When you place your hand in the air, the field meets it with a matching imprint, and for a moment you feel the texture of possibility under your palm the way you might feel cold glass or warm skin. Symbols bloom across the scene. An hourglass dissolving into starlight, a bridge woven from auroras, a book that writes itself only when looked at with reverence. You recognize these not as metaphors, but as instruments. The dissolving hourglass is time shedding the costume of inevitability. The aurora bridge is coherence made visible, the shortest distance between prophecy and embodiment. The self-writing book is the morphic record updating itself from your precise participation. There is also a choice, and the vision does not hide it. The old room will continue to exist for as long as someone needs it. Its gravity will continue to whisper that collapse is dangerous, that renewal is a kind of treason against the familiar. But the helix hums with a different proposition. Collapse is not catastrophe when it is guided by coherence. It is metamorphosis wearing the raincoat of endings. You are not being asked to burn what was. You are being asked to stop feeding what isn't. Then the most intimate scene arrives. You stand in a quiet kitchen at dawn, the ordinary holiness of water meeting the mouth of a glass. You are the same and not the same. A single breath becomes a ceremony. Inhale as invitation, exhale as release, and with it, the corridor folds inward until it lives as a sensation behind the heart. The portal does not vanish, it localizes. The glyph on the gate resolves into a sentence you can finally read. Let go with accuracy. It does not say with force, and it does not say with hurry. Accuracy is an angle, not a volume. In this accuracy, the world to your right steps closer. The chair to your left slides a few inches away. The quantum field brightens not like a stadium but like dawn, and the vision completes its instruction without a single command. When your attention is faithful to the frequency of what is truer, the upgrade waiting in superposition is no longer waiting. It has been you, calling you, from a future that feels eerily like home. What you saw arranges itself now into clear mechanics, the way a constellation becomes a navigation map when you learn the names of its stars. You are not leaving mysticism for science, you are letting them agree on their common alphabet. Begin with the simplest theorem. What you observe with coherent attention increases its probability density around you. This is not a motivational poster. It is the observer effect in lived form. Your gaze is a boundary condition. It sets the constraints in which the wave of possibility chooses to behave like a particle called your life. Coherence is the quality that stabilizes this translation. When your nervous system is fragmented, scattered tabs open in the mind, breath thin, and bargaining your attention flickers, and the field receives a noisy, rapidly switching signal. Interference patterns cancel themselves, and manifestation feels like static. When you regulate your breath and bring sensation into the body, lengthening exhale, widening rib space, softening the jaw, the signal simplifies. Coherence emerges as phase alignment across multiple systems, brain rhythms, heart variability, fascial tensions, hormonal cascades. The music of you tunes itself, and tuned music entrains its surroundings. This is resonance, and resonance is logistics for miracles. Timeline bifurcation is not a mythic doorway in the clouds. It is a threshold that appears whenever two attractors in your field compete for your vote. One attractor is maintained by habit loops, social gravity, survival conclusions, drawn too early to be accurate. The other is maintained by clarified values, somatic safety, and a willingness to feel without fleeing. Each choice, each breath, each micro yes or micro no increments probability toward one basin or the other. Most people think choice happens only at big crossroads, the move, the job, the relationship. In truth, the river forks in smaller bends how you frame a sensation, whether you tell the truth in a gentle sentence, where your eyes rest after waking. The portal dilates in these details. Bifurcation is the mathematics of devotion. Morphic resonance explains why your private alignment isn't private. When you stabilize a new pattern, say, honesty without performance or rest without shame, you make that pattern easier for others to discover. Think of it as a library of viable forms shared through the substrate of consciousness. Your coherence writes a manual in the stacks. A stranger you'll never meet checks it out in a crisis at 3 a.m. and finds a paragraph that keeps them steady. You will not get a notification. You will feel it as a subtle widening in your own life, because what you give the field returns as structure, not as credit. Entanglement reveals why the vision felt like recognition. Parts of you already occupy the higher probability solutions you glimpsed. Those parts send information backward through your choices as a felt sense of rightness. Call it intuition if you like, but do not confuse softness with vagueness. Entanglement is precise. It's the reason a name drops into your mind when you need help, and when you call, their schedule has inexplicably opened. It's the reason a book arrives the day you remember the question you wrote down last winter. The universe is not micromanaging you, it is coordinating with every consent you offer to accuracy. DNA restructuring sits at the intersection of all this. Genes are scripts, epigenetics is the stage direction. Your lived environment, inner and outer, is the lighting designer. Coherence alters the lighting. Chronic threat cues keep certain scripts looping: hypervigilance, collapse, reactivity. Safety cues invite new scripts: curiosity, steadiness, nuanced courage. None of this requires denial. It requires precision. Feel the sensation, name it, do not become it. With repetition, proteins fold differently, inflammatory storms quiet, synaptic pruning frees bandwidth, and the body stops arguing with the future you're building. Biology becomes an ally for prophecy. Superposition is the patient compassion of the field. Multiple versions of you exist as authentic potentials, none of them fake, all of them waiting. Attention is the selector, coherence the stabilizer, action the integrator. Action matters because embodiment is the last mile of any transmission. A truth that does not reach your calendar is a truth you are borrowing. So when the glyph whispered, "Let go with accuracy," it was instructing a behavioral delta. Withdraw energy from patterns that propagate noise. Invest energy in rituals that propagate signal. You do this not once, but rhythmically, until the new attractor becomes home. Consider a practical schema: sensation, story, selection, stabilization. Sensation arises, tightness in chest before a conversation. Story offers its usual script: this will go badly, stay small. Selection is the intervention. You breathe, soften your tongue, rotate your attention from prediction to present data, and choose a sentence that is both honest and kind. Stabilization is the repetition of this loop across contexts until your body trusts that truth does not equal exile. The bifurcation completes in dozens of such loops, and then all at once, like ice turning to water at a precise temperature. Nothing here requires violence against what was. Collapse, when guided by coherence, is a mercy. Structures fall so circulation can return. Ash is not failure, it is fertile. And as you keep noticing with fidelity, The field keeps answering with geometry. Doors align, people appear, fatigue lifts in incremental revelations. You do not chase the upgrade, you tune to the frequency where it is already ordinary. Then the world, obliged by its own laws, reshapes itself around the music you refuse to stop playing. As the geometry around you clarifies, you begin to notice how the same geometry scales, how the pattern that steadies your breath is the pattern that steadies cities, how a single, honest sentence in your mouth resembles an axis shift in the human story. You are not separate from the age you live in. You are its local expression. The prophecy does not arrive to isolate you in private radiance. It arrives to recruit your coherence into the architecture of collective awakening. Look closely, and you can feel the world's nervous system under your fingertips. A species learning to breathe past the shoulders, a civilization weaning itself from adrenaline as a worldview, a chorus of hearts rediscovering tempo. The headlines tell you one story: roller coaster, rupture, relentless heat, but underneath the noise the quantum field is generating a counterpoint, and you can hear it because you tuned yourself to hear it. It sounds like strangers holding eye contact one sentence longer. It looks like courage distributed in smaller, saner doses across ordinary days. It moves like an observer loop widening from the individual to the neighborhood to the nation, each ring authorizing the next. Morphic resonance makes this scaling lawful. When you cultivate coherence, you are not merely improving mood, you are publishing a new template into the shared library of forms. Someone halfway around the planet borrows that template without ever knowing your name. They do not need your name, they need your pattern. The field does not trade in biography, it trades in fidelity. That is why your quiet integrity matters more than loud certainty. That is why your daily micro-rituals, water before screen, breath before reply, gratitude before sleep, behave like small tuning forks placed on the table of the world. They ring, and other instruments catch pitch. Entanglement scales too. Networks of care appear where spreadsheets predicted scarcity. Solutions arrive by routes that metrics did not see coming because metrics measure what already happened. Prophecy measures what alignment makes inevitable. Watch how communities self-organize along lines of meaning rather than fear. Watch how generosity refuses to wait for permission slips. Watch how beauty, the most underestimated logistics system, coordinates volunteers, funds, and timing with an accuracy no algorithm can counterfeit. You are part of this choreography each time you refuse to outsource your conscience. The collective mirror is also exacting. It reflects both progress and residue. You witness, without denial, the old attractor still tugging at the species' addiction to velocity, attention economies that monetize fracture, traditions that mistake numbness for strength. You do not look away, because looking away is a vote. Instead, you become the kind of witness that changes what is witnessed, regulated, present, unwilling to dehumanize even what you resist. This is advanced work. It feels like holding paradox without splitting fierce boundaries. Soft heart. The quantum field recognizes this as high coherence and routes improbable options through you. De-escalations that should not have been possible. Design insights that arrive in the shower. Reconciliations that rewire an entire branch of a family system. Think of humanity as a complex adaptive organism approaching a phase transition. Prior to the shift, noise increases, subsystems wobble, feedback loops scream. Then something elegant happens. A critical mass of local coherence tips the whole into a new basin. No single node controls this. Many nodes consent to it. You are one such node, living proof that the upgrade is not a concept, but a competency. The competency is simple, though not always easy. Tell the truth kindly, protect the vulnerable, move at the speed of trust, choose the sentence that keeps connection and clarity in the same room. When enough bodies practice this, culture changes costume. You will be tempted to measure your impact with spectacles. Resist. The collective mirror brightens through humble increments. The meeting that ends 5 minutes early because it didn't need performative conflict. The parent who apologizes accurately and teaches a child that repair is normal. The engineer who declines a feature designed to harvest attention and instead designs for rest. These are not small, they are seeds. Morphic fields adore seeds. They replicate with an enthusiasm that empires cannot predict. Notice how your language shifts as the mirror clarifies. You stop saying the world is broken and start saying the world is between stories. You stop waiting for leaders you can admire and start becoming a leader you can respect. Leadership, here, does not require a stage. It requires a regulated pulse. It is measured, not in followers, but in frequency, how cleanly your presence tunes a room to its best possibility. The prophecy recognizes such tuning as governance. The field calls it homeostasis with grace. So you keep your rituals close and your listening wide. You place your attention where healing is trying to happen, and you lend it stability instead of speed. You do not confuse urgency with accuracy. You let coherence do the heavy lifting while you do the humble work. And as you do, the mirror reflects a species remembering its native music, one breath at a time, one choice at a time, until the song is loud enough to guide a world across its threshold without breaking what it came to save. It gathers the way summer storms gather at first as pressure in the air, then as a hush in the birds, then as a horizon that learns the shape of lightning before lightning arrives. You feel it across your skin, the field thickening, the palette of probability separating into two tonalities that want different kinds of truth from you. This is not drama for its own sake. This is anatomy. Every living system reaches moments when two attractors sing at equal volume, and the body must decide which song to harmonize with. Listen carefully. One song is familiar, the anthem of speed and scarcity, the lullaby that says, "Stay the same because you survived this long by staying the same." It is not evil. It is outdated. It keeps your nervous system rehearsing danger in rooms where danger is not present, and it frames courage as recklessness, even when courage is simply accuracy wearing its work clothes. The other song is quieter but truer. It does not bargain. It does not shout. It offers a path that asks more kindness of you than your fear thinks you can afford, and then shows you that kindness is what pays the cost. At bifurcation, the observer loop becomes a sacrament. Every breath is a ballot. Every sentence is a lever. You cannot fake coherence here. The field is exquisitely literal. If your words outrun your body, the old attractor gains momentum. If your breath outruns your story, if you let the body set the cadence and invite the narrative to keep up, the new attractor stabilizes. You are choosing with posture and gaze as much as with plan and vow. This is why stillness matters. Stillness is a laboratory for clean votes. You may feel grief as the split clarifies. Allow it. Grief is proof. The old reality held something valuable. A habit that kept you safe. A role that gave you belonging. A belief that got you through nights that would have broken you without it. Do not insult the bridge that carried you by cursing it on the far bank. Bless it, and then let the water move under it. Accuracy means honoring what worked while ceasing to pretend it still works. You may feel fear too, and your fear has a point. The known is measurable, the unknown is not. But there is a deeper arithmetic at play. The known is not the same as the knowable, and the unknown is not the same as unsafe. Measure by coherence, not by novelty. If your body softens when you imagine telling the truth, that softening is data. If your jaw unclenches when you release a role, that release is data. If your breath lengthens when you admit what you want, that lengthening is data. The field reads your physiology more fluently than your slogans. Thresholds attract tests, not as punishment but as calibration. Expect invitations to abandon yourself in familiar ways, one more performance for approval, one more agreement with a story you no longer inhabit, one more sprint to outrun a feeling that only needs 10 seconds of companionship. When these invitations arrive, slow everything by 10%. Let silence arrive first. Put your tongue on the roof of your mouth to settle the jaw, widen the back of your ribs, and ask the only question that matters. Which choice increases coherence now? Then obey the small answer. It will be small. That is how accuracy disguises itself from spectacle. You are not the only one at this crossroads. The species is here with you. Schools, companies, communities, families reaching for new basins, while old incentive structures tug at their sleeves. Watch how the same gestures scale. Apology that repairs rather than performs. boundaries that protect connection rather than punish intimacy, and design that builds rest into the architecture rather than treating rest as reward. These are not preferences, they are timeline signatures. A culture that chooses them migrates toward viability. A culture that refuses them rehearses extinction with good manners. You may wonder how to carry reverence without paralysis. Begin with 3 vows you can keep under pressure. Tell 1 more degree of truth than is comfortable. Move 1 notch slower than urgency demands. Protect 1 square inch of beauty each day on your desk, in your language, in the way you end a meeting. Beauty is not decoration, it is orientation. When the old attractor shouts, beauty points north. Now feel the moment itself, the hinge inside your chest. The corridor you saw earlier is here again, not as spectacle but as sensation. Warmth behind the sternum, a quiet in the throat, a widening in the eyes that says, I can perceive more. Let the widening lead. Let the warmth vote. Then act 1 precise call, 1 accurate no, 1 generous yes, that costs only what you can pay with peace. Action collapses the argument. Action teaches your biology that the new song is safe enough to sing in public. The split does not vanish after 1 choice. It clarifies after many. But each coherent act widens the channel until the river forgets it ever flowed another way. You will know you've tipped when effort becomes clean and time stops feeling adversarial. You will know you've tipped when the world answers you with logistics that feel like relief. And in that relief, you will feel the prophecy lean close and whisper the simplest benediction it knows. Keep going, exactly like this, until the new attractor is the only weather your life remembers. You begin where the river begins in breath, because breath is the original interface, the first technology by which biology and prophecy shake hands. Inhale for 4, pause for 2, exhale for 6. Repeat until the back of your ribs learns how to open like a window that was painted shut and finally remembers hinge. This is not a wellness trick, it is bandwidth engineering. Longer exhales cue the nervous system toward safety. Safety increases coherence. Coherence clarifies choice. Clarified choice stabilizes timeline selection. You are not calming down to become smaller. You are calming down to become exact. Let your mornings become laboratories. Before the screen, water. Before the inbox, sky. Step outside if you can, and greet the day with eyes that soften to peripheral vision. This signals the body that the predator has left the room, that vigilance can stand down, that listening can come forward. Place 1 hand over the sternum and 1 over the navel. Feel heat, meet heat. Whisper the glyph you were given. Let go with accuracy, and listen for where it lands. If it lands as a relaxation in your jaw, today's accuracy may be silence. If it lands as tingling in your palms, today's accuracy may be service. Integration begins by respecting where the sentence chooses to live inside you. Choose 3 anchor practices to hold the frequency when the day gets loud. A coherence breath, a truth sentence, and a micro gesture of beauty. The breath you already know. The truth sentence is short enough to remember under pressure. I can stay kind and clear, or my no protects my yes, or simply, I'm safe enough to tell the truth. Beauty is your compass in motion. A small arrangement of light on your desk, a glass of water placed like an offering, a line of language revised until it hums. Beauty does not distract you from the work. It teaches you the signature of rightness, so you can recognize it elsewhere. Integrate through calendars, not slogans. If the prophecy does not touch your scheduling, your prophecy is still theoretical. Block 15 minutes of intentional stillness after your most charged daily interaction. Put it on the calendar like a meeting with your future self. In that stillness, close the tabs in your body, release shoulders, soften the belly, let the tongue rest against the roof of the mouth. Widen your attention to include ambient sound. Ask a single question. What, if added or removed, increases coherence? Act on the smallest actionable answer within 24 hours. Integration compounds through kept promises. Let your language become a tuning instrument. Replace I have to with I choose to, and feel the axis shift from compulsion to authorship. Replace always divided by never with until now, to keep the morphic field from freezing you in obsolete patterns. Replace should with "Is it true?" to dismantle the scaffolding of borrowed duty. This isn't semantics, it's physics. Words carry operator status in the observer loop. Clean operators yield clean outputs. Practice entanglement on purpose. Each morning send attention clear, brief, unsentimental toward 3 relationships or projects that want to prosper through you. Imagine them inside the Aurora Bridge you saw, bathed in the frequency of nothing forced, nothing withheld. Do not beg the field, collaborate with it. Then do one mundane action in alignment, a concise email, a boundary stated early, a thank you note that costs you nothing and changes everything. The field routes logistics through willing hands. Feed your biology like you mean it. Integration is cellular. Hydration writes hymns in fascia. Good salt steadies electricity. Protein prevents your courage from cannibalizing your muscles. Magnesium reminds the body that night is for repair, not rehearsal. This is not moralism, it is mechanics. A body that trusts you will let you access choices your mind cannot reach by logic alone. When the residue of the old reality rises, as it will meet it without theater, the impulse to appease, the spiral of catastrophizing, the reflex to over-explain, greet each by name and breathe until the compulsion loses altitude. Practice the 10-second altar. In any room, at any moment, pause long enough to place the moment in the center like a candle and choose again. Repetition is not failure. Repetition is ceramics. You are glazing a pot that will hold your life. Ritualize repair. Integration is not perfection. It is fidelity under revision. When you miss the mark, apologize with nouns, not drama. I said I would call by noon and I didn't. I'm resetting the agreement. Let your nervous system learn that truth ends panic faster than performance. Each honest repair becomes a stitch in the new baseline, a signal to DNA that community is safe enough to be creative again. Design friction out of your temptations and friction into your distractions. Keep what serves you within one reach. Water, journal, instrument, prayer beads, walking shoes. Keep what fractures you 2 steps farther. Apps off the front screen, notifications off by default, snacks that confuse your body out of the house. Your future depends less on willpower than on architecture. Build an architecture of ease around what keeps you coherent. Honor thresholds with micro-ceremony. Before a meeting, touch the doorframe and choose your frequency. Before sending words into the world, breathe on them as if they were seeds and ask whether they grow what you love. Before sleep, hand the field one specific instruction. Show me one accurate next step and keep a pen nearby because the field adores specificity and midnight. Finally, let joy be evidence, not reward. Joy signals that signal is flowing. Laughter in the kitchen, the ache after a decent stretch, the sudden quiet at the end of a sentence that landed true. These are not extras, they are telemetry. Follow their breadcrumbs. They lead you to the ordinary rooms where the extraordinary waits to be made normal by your faithful attention. And as you keep living like this, breath by breath, braver by percentages, the frequency stops feeling like something you hold. It starts feeling like something that holds you, and through you, begins to hold the world. You enter the room without furniture, the interval between notes, the margin where ink decides whether to become a word. You do not perform quiet, you let quiet perform you. Breath slows until it is less an action than a climate. Thought loosens its laces, the field leans close. This is not absence, it is saturated presence without decoration. The kind of stillness that doesn't suppress anything, it just refuses to hurry. When you stop narrating, phenomena stop auditioning. Sensation is allowed to be sensation heat where the ribs widen, coolness across the cheeks, a tender ache in the wrists where effort used to grip. You realize that much of what you called me was commentary, and commentary can rest. The body keeps existing without it. The world keeps cooperating. In this quiet, the observer loop simplifies to its essence. Attention that is not trying to get rid of, not trying to become. Raw awareness, bare and generous, the same way light touches a surface without asking for applause. You are not detached. You are intimate with everything because you are not arguing with anything. Intimacy reveals information that noise concealed, a small current behind the heart, a subtle buoyancy below the navel, the hint of a smile that belongs to no one and yet brightens the room from the inside. Listen deeper. At first you hear your own mechanics, the pulse in the ears, the rhythm in the ribs, the hum of electricity through the walls. Then a wider pulse blooms, a basal tempo the planet keeps. Trees count in it, oceans keep time with it. The quantum field seems to breathe to it, a standing wave of permission that doesn't start or stop, but waits for you to notice that you are already inside its cathedral. You do not join it. You remember you never left. Language thins to transparency. Words still exist, but meaning is carried by spacing, by the honesty of pauses, by the way your shoulders set down their opinions. Sometimes revelation arrives as a sentence. Here, it arrives as grammar without letters, the syntax of ease arranging your fascia, the punctuation of a long exhale, placing a period at the end of a decade you forgot to conclude. You do not need a vision to confirm progress. The stillness itself is evidence. It would be difficult to prove in a lab and trivial to feel in your bones. Silence edits your agreements. As you sit, old contracts flutter up from storage obligations signed by a frightened version of you, loyalties to rooms where you had to shrink to fit, vows made under the influence of hunger. Each is welcomed to the table and met with the simplest inquiry. Is this true now? Many dissolve without ceremony, like chalk under rain. A few remain, smaller and cleaner, revealed as devotion rather than debt. You leave with less to carry and more to give. Coherence deepens not through effort but through consent. The heart's variability settles into a resilient range. The brain stops chewing yesterday. Muscles exit the meeting early, as if remembering they were never meant to hold the whole world. The immune system listens and sets down its surplus weapons. DNA does what it loves, transcribes accurately because the signal-to-noise ratio just improved by mercy rather than discipline. Stillness is not a pause from practice. It is the practice without accessories. You discover that silence is extremely informative about timing. Urgency loses its costume. Accuracy shows its face. In the hush, you can tell the difference between the next right act and the next dramatic act. You sense when to speak and when to let the room answer its own question. You sense when to send the message and when to wait 1 hour so the words can become kinder without becoming softer. You sense when to turn toward and when to bow out. The field rewards such timing with logistics that feel like kindness. This phase is not fragile, it is spacious. You can walk through airport corridors with it. You can carry it into budget meetings and hospital lobbies. You can fold laundry inside it. Silence isn't the absence of sound. It's the absence of friction. Where there was once sand in every hinge, now there is oil. Doors move without complaint. Conversations hinge without splintering. Time stops biting and starts breathing. You notice small bright things, a reflection on the rim of a glass like a tiny eclipse, the precise weight of your name when you speak it with respect. The way a friend's laugh restores a corner of the room to its original color. These are not ornaments, they are telemetry. They indicate that the frequency you cultivated has stabilized into habitat. Habitat invites inhabitants, ideas, allies, solutions with good manners. What echoes in you is not an instruction so much as a tone, the residue of prophecy after its words have finished. You carry that tone the way a bell carries strike into ring. When you rise differently, not faster, not slower, simply aligned. Quiet has done its arithmetic. Extraneous terms have cancelled. What remains is solvable without strain. Stand gently. Let the silence come with you like a shawl you don't need to clutch. The phase is complete when you can move without losing the room inside you. And you can. You do. The next choice waits at the door with its calm face on. You meet it not with noise, not with proofs, but with the steady yes of a body that remembers the cathedral it carries. You move without losing the room inside you, and the room moves with you. This is the sign. Activation doesn't trumpet, it harmonizes. The tone you carried from silence finds its echo in the world, and the echo returns as choreography. An email arrives on the breath you just released. A door opens at the speed of your softened shoulders. A yes appears where there used to be a wall. The prophecy that once spoke from the horizon is speaking now from your bloodstream, translating itself into posture and choice. You are not holding the frequency is holding you. Feel the technicals engage. Heart-brain coherence locks like gears finding the same tooth at last. The observer loop stabilizes at a higher resolution. You attend, the field replies. You attend again, but the latency is gone. Signal travels clean. The lag that made you doubt is replaced by a taut kindness, like the way a sail accepts wind, no flapping, just transfer. Cells listen. Ion channels keep better time. The vagus nerve becomes a bright river instead of a siren. DNA reads this calm as safe conditions for expression and begins to publish pages it kept sealed during the storm. Receptivity without collapse, clarity without cruelty, power without spectacle. Activation is not the lightning strike. It is the conductivity that makes lightning ordinary. Your calendar, your kitchen, your keyboard, these are the altars. Watch how decisions sort themselves when you remain faithful to accuracy. Invitations that once required hour-long debates fall into 3 piles by feel. Yes, no, not yet. Yes, warms the sternum. No, cools the jaw. Not yet, leaves the breath long and the gaze soft. You follow this trinity and discover that timing is mercy in disguise. Coherence is suddenly economical. Entanglement becomes explicit. You think of a friend, and their message lights the screen before your thumb can reach it. You draft a proposal in the tone of sufficiency, and the budget that did not exist rearranges itself like iron filings discovering a magnet. You choose to repair a small misunderstanding instead of rehearsing a perfect defense. And 3 unrelated conversations later that day collapse into ease, as if someone upstream cleared debris. Call it coincidence if you need to, but notice how coincidence increases with the precision of your consent. Morphic resonance is updating the manual in real time, and you are one of its authors now. There is a texture to the air when activation matures. Old triggers still flicker, but they no longer own the fuse box. You feel the first twitch of reaction and choose sensation over story. 10 seconds of breathing, shoulders down, eyes widening to peripheral vision, and the organism remembers the cathedral. The situation remains the situation. The spell is gone. You can act without reenacting. This is power with manners. The world responds by elevating the kinds of problems that find you. Not heavier, truer. Problems calibrated to the frequency you're willing to hold. How to design a process that protects human attention. How to end a partnership with dignity intact on both sides. How to architect rest into a machine that measures only motion. You do not carry these alone. Activation attracts allies who recognize substance. They arrive with the same tone in their bones, and collaboration feels like 2 rivers meeting and deciding to keep their names. Practice a simple rite to keep the channel clean. Before any consequential act, lay your hand over the sternum and ask, is this accurate, kind, and timely? Accurate without kind becomes weaponry. Kind without accurate becomes anesthesia. Timely without either becomes theater. When all 3 align, you will feel the click, the inner door you first heard in the transmission call. Act on that. Click within 1 breath if you can, within 1 hour if you must. Delay dilutes coherence. Immediacy composes it. Notice how beauty multiplies as a side effect. Food tastes like gratitude. Light invents new angles on your desk. Even fatigue, when it arrives, feels honest, an invitation to rest rather than a threat to identity. You honor it and sleep like someone who trusts the night. Dreams become logistical briefings in metaphor, bridges that build themselves, rooms that tidy when you exhale, gates that open when you tell the truth in a single sentence. You wake with an instruction simple enough to survive daylight. You do it before breakfast. And then the pivot you feared becomes the pivot you protect. You stop seeking proof that you are allowed to live from this frequency. You live from it, and the proof accumulates as quieter rooms and truer work and friendships that don't punish mystery. The prophecy is no longer a message you received. It is a species of attention you became. You are a local address for a larger intelligence. No hierarchy, no halo, just fidelity. Let the fidelity continue to write your day, the way tide writes coastline. Let the upgrade stop being an event and start being your habitat. The field has met you. Keep meeting it back. You stand where the hinge became a doorway, and the doorway learned your name. Not triumphant, simply true. Breath carries the tone you found in silence. Posture carries the ease you practiced under weather that once called itself fate. The upgrade is no longer waiting in superposition. It is the atmosphere you breathe, ordinary as light on water. You did not wrench it down. You tuned up to meet it. And now the world answers with the manners of grace, clean timings, honest endings, beginnings that arrive without theater. You look back without regret and forward without demand. Gratitude rises for the scaffolds that held, for the bridges that knew when to vanish, for the versions of you that kept the fire through nights that forgot your language. You bless them and let them rest. Accuracy is the gentlest goodbye. Feel the hum in your chest, the observer loop stabilized, the heart and brain trading signals like old friends who no longer need to shout. Coherence is now habitat, entanglement is now logistics. Morphic resonance updates because you keep your promises when nobody is watching. The field memorizes your fidelity and routes futures through you that require exactly your kind of steadiness. Carry 3 vows across the threshold and call them simple enough to survive hunger and praise. Tell the truth kindly, move at the speed of trust, protect 1 square inch of beauty every day. Let these vows be the geometry that holds when storms audition for your attention. Let them be the way your DNA remembers the choir it came from. You are not finished, you are faithful. You are not chosen apart, you are chosen as local address of a larger intelligence. You make rooms safer by standing in them without armor. You let timing do its ancient work. You let love take the practical form of clarity. You let endings be doors and beginnings be breaths. If doubt returns, and it will, because whether do what you have learned to do. Widen the eyes, lengthen the exhale. Ask which choice increases coherence now, and obey the small answer. Keep water near and hurry far. Keep beauty close and performance brief. Keep listening until listening becomes the language everyone remembers. The prophecy does not conclude, it completes. It seals itself the way wax holds a letter closed, not to hide its contents, but to preserve their integrity until the right hands open them. Consider these words that seal. Let go with accuracy. Let go of the room that taught you survival when you are called to the room that teaches you resurrection. Let go of the narrative that praises exhaustion when your actual genius is rest-fueled precision. Let go of proof-seeking when evidence already surrounds you in quieter friends and truer work, and a body that trusts your voice. Now place your hand over the sternum and feel the click we named at the beginning, the inner door that opens when presence signs its consent. Speak softly so the world can hear you without strain. I release the obsolete with gratitude. I authorize the accurate with love. I inhabit the upgrade that has already chosen me. The seal is set. The blessing is simple. The path is ordinary and holy. The prophecy has been spoken. Let it unfold through you.